Camagu. Hey, molweni. Dumelang, salibona, sanibonani. My people, how are you doing? How are you doing? How are you doing? Please like and share. Please like and share the live, guys. Please like and share the live. You know, as I was always aware that our culture goes far and beyond. Our culture goes far and beyond. But maybe today, I want to talk about something, but with a stronger inclination towards herbs. Camagu, camsholo, and abezita. This is the music for the spirit. This is music for the soul. It's not just noise. It's very, very deep music. What I have here on the screen is a mummy. It's a mummy from Eastern Cape, Ingqukhanya. It's a mummy from the place of Eastern Cape called Ingqukhanya. They found this mummy, I think maybe in the 80s, if not late 70s, early 80s. They found this mummy. And when they did analysis on this mummy, they found that this mummy is 2,000 years old. It was a male who was probably in his 40s, 30s to 40s, in what we call Eastern Cape today, in Ingqukhanya. What I found interesting about this mummy is that this mummy is said to be occurring naturally. They said it's a natural mummy. There's no possibility that the people could have done something to the mummy. Do you understand? This is not the only mummy that was found in South Africa. There are many other mummies that were found in South Africa. There are many other mummies that were found in South Africa, and not just South Africa, Southern Africa altogether. And each and every one of those mummies, the scientists, the archaeologists, and whoever else has a voice in this industry, said it's impossible that these mummies are actual mummies. There must have been some natural process that took place. Maybe they were exposed to extreme cold and therefore they were preserved. This is what happens when you let other people tell you who you are. When we talk about Izitunzela or Imikovu, they think we are playing. They think it's just superstition. This is a mummy, a mummified body. Remember, guys, to go subscribe on my YouTube. I'm trying to find a picture that's going to show the mummy properly. It's not a good picture. But anyway, you get the point. So they found this mummy in the Eastern Cape in Ingqukhanya or Ngqukhanya area. Now Ngqukhanya is a river, Mos. It's a river that has a lot of soil, a lot of clay, mud river. That's what it means, Ngqukhanya. The river that is on the ground, low waters. They found this mummy. They completely discounted any possibility of it having been done by the indigenous people. They said, no, it could not have been, could not have been the indigenous people. It had to be some natural process. Same thing happened when they found a mummy just outside, just above above the Limpopo River. They found another mummy there. They call it the Tuli mummy. Guess what the explanation was? Oh no, it must have been a natural event. Come on, guys. They found two mummies in Southern Africa, and both of them are natural events. But the mummies that are found elsewhere in the world are proper mummies. In Zimbabwe, in South Africa, in Botswana, any mummy that has been found, it must have been due to some natural event. Just like the one that was found in Ngukha, ground river, or river full of ground, full of soil, full of close to the surface. Ngu means the ground, like pansi. It means pansi. So now, when they find these mummies, some of them did analysis, because this is based on our burial traditions. The way in which we buried people, we did not use coffins. We used skin. Wrap them around in skin. But the bodies were not just put in there. There were certain herbs that were used to inter the, to work the skin, basically. Ngesintu ukuqhola umzimba. There were herbs that were used to qhola umzimba. And these herbs have specific functions. And these functions are directly related to mummification. One of these herbs is this one. Of these herbs, known as incwadi. This is a group of herbs known as incwadi. They call it the buffon. Buffon. B-W-O phone. Incwadi is a herb. Properties. It can be poisonous, but it's got other powerful properties, such as being hallucinogenic. But it also operates as anesthetic. It's an anesthetic. It actually numbs pain. It numbs pain. It causes hallucinations. In fact, powerful sagomas back in the day, when they want to exit into the other world, they used to take a portion of this together with other concoctions. They would put it in herbs, in medication, and drink it. Their mind or their state. I always talk about this dance around the fire, and people still don't understand it. They would take some of this herb because it's a herb that allows entry in and out of that other realm. Now, do you think it's a mistake that this is the same herb is used when there's a dead body? It's used as some kind of a perfume to preserve the body. In fact, when a perfume to preserve the body. In fact, when a king cleaned and put next to a fire, so as to trigger this preservation process. Thank you, Thrive. Keep them coming, people. So as to trigger this preservation of the body. So the usage of this herb always has to do with some way of escaping the current state into the transitional state. That's why then you can take a portion of this herb and mix it with isilawu or igobongo or ibudlu. You can mix it with igobongo, you can mix it with isilawu. The power that it has. Now remember, isilawu itself has psychoactive properties. So when you take this hallucinogenic anesthetic and you add a psychoactive isilawu, do you not understand that through the rhythmic dances that people do around the fire, it speaks to your most basal elements, to your most primal parts. But it also gives you the ability to have an out-of-body experience. I kid you not. I kid you not. It gives you the ability to have an out-of-body experience. You can go up or you can go down. These past few weeks, I've been talking about portals of entry and exit. Portals of entry and exit. And a lot of those portals are specific regions, specific points, where we can talk about the Tropic of Capricorn, we can talk about some meridian lines, we can talk about lines of longitude. There are, the ley lines, but also there are portals within your very body that certain herbs are going to speak to. And this is the whole idea behind the ancients who preserved this knowledge. And one of those preserved or hidden pieces of knowledge is when it comes to death and burial. So it boggles my mind when these Europeans find these mummies, these mummified bodies in South Africa, in Zimbabwe, in Botswana. They always, without end, tell you that these are natural mummies. They are natural. The people could not have possibly known that, there's a science behind mummies. But any other region in the world, it's fine for them to have mummies. But when it's us who have mummies that are proven, and it's not just humans, we've had animals as mummies as well. It's not just human mummies, also animals. What do you think is imikovu are? In essence, what do you think is itunzela are? It speaks to preserved bodies of the dead. But these bodies are not just preserved. Certain herbs are applied to the bodies of the dead to allow the dead to enter, to exit. In fact, not only do certain herbs get added and applied to the body, but certain things, accompaniments, are given to those who have passed. Offerings. The stick they were using while they were alive, induku. Igudu or ipunguza or iwisa, they will be given a shield. They will be given a shield, they will be given some food, they will be given grain, they will be given a couple of things to accompany them and even something to drink, because the understanding is that they are crossing over now. And whatever comes on their way, they need to be ready. In fact, in some instances, they would be even accompanied by animals. This is why in the old Zulu culture, there's a tradition of Ukukhanya, where men were unalived to be buried with the king, because they will be his servants on the journey. Do you not understand? This is the whole story about Anubis. Oh, Anubis, the canine, the dog-like, jackal-like creature, which is there as a guide to the other journey. So these herbs, such as incwadi or incwadi, inqotho, herbs like this were used, especially in those funeral processions of before time, were used heavily to provide that easy transition. But not just that, actually. This herb also, it works very well to prevent pain, to reduce pain. This herb is so good as an anesthetic to make things numb. So there are many traditional, rites of passage that include pain, and herbs like this would be used there. I'm not going to go in detail. But it's just interesting to me that whenever there's something that goes against the European narrative about us, such as discovering, because we did not discover, we are these things already. Them finding out that we have mummies in Southern Africa and losing their minds and trying to control the narrative. There's limitless amounts of papers written by professors at Wits, trying to substantiate this proposal that these mummies that were found in South Africa and Southern Africa could not have been real mummies. These must be some kind of natural, process by which these mummies were formed. It's just interesting to me because the mummies we find in Southern Africa are aligned with the mummies you find in other parts, like so-called ancient Egypt. They have mummies of animals, they've got mummies of cats, they've got mummies of birds. We have mummies of these things as well. And it's amazing that to me, the only one that can be true is the one that they can claim as being theirs. And the one that cannot be claimed can't be true. Do you understand the double standards? So then our knowledge of herbs went much deeper. And our understanding of herbs was not from a purely observable, objective properties. It was not just the objective properties. We understood the different properties. For example, the herb is an anesthetic, but the herb is also a hallucinogenic aesthetic. So what we do, we use it in different parts of our traditions. We use it when there's some kind of traditional surgery, because we did surgery, of course. Circumcision is literally a form of indigenous surgery. Cutting off the fingertip is a form of indigenous surgery. Ukuchaza is a form of indigenous surgery. So the idea that we don't know what surgery is completely unfounded. But we would use herbs like this, burn some of them, concoct some of them with other herbs, and they would act as local anesthetics. But we'd also use them as hallucinogenics to allow us to experience higher, frequencies when we do the dancing, and couple that with the vibration of the dance. It allows you to, experience elevated moments. So this is our relationship with nature from the moment of birth to the moment of death, unaliving. It's not limited to when we are alive only. Even when we have passed, we still make sure that the journey is prepared by those who live. In the burial of Nelson Mandela, there was a time where cameras were told that, okay, guys, now you've videographed everything, you cannot go any further. The cameras had to respect that. This is the time in which he was actually being put to the grave. They never could record it because there are certain traditions that had to be observed. Since he was a prince, he beka inkosi uMandela, not just a prince, actually an actual inkosi, beka inkosi. So because uMandela beka inkosi, they had to observe certain traditions, some of which I've just mentioned here. In fact, his grave is not even like the usual grave, which is European in nature. His grave, they dug it down, and then as they dug down, they had to dig on the side. They had to dig on the side so that he sleeps there. And then they had to leave certain things: his leopard skin, his stick, his pipe, his blankets, his etc., etc., etc. So this is what I'm talking about. Why would then these scholars from Europe think they have some kind of authority to dictate what the limits of our culture are? Because that's what they're doing now. When they say, no, in Southern Africa, we cannot have any real mummies. Mummies can only be in ancient Egypt and only in ancient South America. In Southern Africa, they were primitive creatures. They could not have been mummies. But here's the mummy in Eastern Cape, in Ngqura. There's a mummy in Limpopo. There's a mummy in Botswana, the Tuli mummy. And there are many other mummies that were animals. How did those mummies come about? How did those mummies come about? Now that part, they're not even willing to explore. Not only can they not explain it, they're not willing to explore because they know they were gonna find the surprises of their lives. And that's where you need to be careful now with their version of research. Look up the Makapan mummy. It's called the Makapan child, actually, and the human and animal remains. This one was found in a cave, in a historic cave. This was about 1992. But they say the cave was dry enough to cause mummification. So the mummification, they don't accept that it was done by the indigenous people. No. It was the cave that did. Come on, guys. Can you hear this nonsense? They're saying the Makapan mummy was created by the cave it was in. When did caves start creating mummies now? How many sepulchres do we have inside caves along the Drakensberg? How many people were buried in caves? But none of them are mummies. None of them are mummies. So if caves are so good at making mummies, why don't we see more mummies like that? So they will find any explanation, no matter how dumb it is, as long as it's gonna serve the purpose of denying any kind of truth about us, they will use those justifications. That no, the Makapan mummy, that is the cave. The cave was very dry. It was dry enough to cause what is this? To cause mummification. They say it's dry air, it's dry air because the area has dry air. It's the reason why this mummy was formed. And that's where problems begin now, because we wait for them to tell us what the truth is about us. But when have they told the truth about anyone, really? This is a mummy that was found in Limpopo, guys. Somehow, scholars from Wits are going to tell me about Limpopo. The people of Limpopo are quiet, and Wits scholars are telling us that a mummy that was found in Limpopo is not a real mummy. It came because of what? Because of the dry air that is in the cave. How many other caves in this country did they find bodies? How many? So in terms of the burial position, there were multiple burial positions. For example, this one is the fetal position. I think it's sleeping on the left side. There were a couple of them. Others were buried upright. Sorry. Others were buried upright, especially those in the Drakensberg area. They were buried upright, facing a certain direction. I'm not sure if it's east or west, honestly. I forgot now. But that's how they were buried. And then others would be, for example, this one, you can't see it now. This one is on a fetal position on the side. This one is also on its back. No, on its side, fetal position. The most undeniable characteristic of all these mummies is that they were buried in a fetal position, what we call kwantsonga nyawana or kwaguqanyawo. Kwaguqanyawo, where feet are folded, where legs are folded. You see, that's why elderly people used to warn us, if you don't listen, they will say mntanam uzawuya kwantsonga nyawana, which means you're gonna die if you don't listen to me. Uzawuya kwantsonga nyawana. Kwantsonga nyawana is at the grave, literally. Emathuneni, emadlakeni. Sobonana emathuneni, sobonana ema. Kudala batsho abantu abadala bathi sobonana emathuneni, but they had a way to say it. Uthi sobonana kwaguqanyawo. Yabo, because guqa is to fold, is to kneel. Basically the action of folding your feet. This is exactly how these people were buried. But the most important thing now is that our culture does not allow for these things to be public knowledge. Our culture does not allow for these things to be public knowledge, guys. That's the problem that white people are having, that Western scholars are having. Just because they don't have a public record of how burials were conducted, they think it never existed. No, it does exist, but you have to be initiated to know it. Why would they tell you something that has nothing to do with you or your forefathers? Why would our ancestors tell you what is being done in the mountain, but you don't practice it when? Why would our ancestors tell you what is done in Intonjane, but you don't practice? Why would they tell you what is being done in Kudeni, but it's not your culture? Why would they tell you what is being done when the little finger is cut, but it's not your culture? Why would a wife who's married tell you how processions work in that family where she was married, but it's not any of your business? So we were not a people who shared things publicly. If you wanted to know something, you had to go and get trained under the guidance of the experts in that field. That's it. So the absence of evidence is not the evidence of absence. They say it, the white people say it. But then they come and then use the absence of evidence according to their standards as evidence of absence. They don't know why the mummies are there, and therefore they will say, oh no, the mummies are not actually mummies. They are just naturally occurring bodies that did not decay. Simply because they didn't ask us. They should have asked, what do you guys do when the king has died? And then they were going to be trained. But then by the time they finish that training, they're not going to tell anyone after that because they understand the principles of our culture. According to our ways, which is the correct position and why? Well, I think it depends on the nation, on the kingdom or clan you are part of. Yabon. As I said, in ancient times, my culture, because we're people who were in the caves, Yabon, we're in the mountains. There's no way we were gonna be burying people on like digging holes and all that. That did not make sense. So what we did was, on the side of the cave, we were gonna dig up something called a sepulcher. I don't know what my mother calls it, but my mother knows what this thing is called. But it's the essence of what ituna is. So you cut the rock on the side, you open up a little room there, a lay. You know, it's called a sepulcher. Then you put the body that has died there. My mother told me this with her mouth. And then they create something like a curtain using reeds. Somewhat of a curtain using reeds. This curtain is going to cover the body. Obviously, for the body to slow down the decay process, they will use certain spices and herbs, like this herb you see here, which is what contributes in some degree to some of the mummies occurring, you see. So, Tina, we buried by putting people on the side of the rock. And in that way, there were two ways in which you can do that. You can lay them sitting upright with feet like this, or you can lay them on the side as babies sleep. So that's how we did it in my culture. But in other areas where there are no caves, I don't expect them to do it like me. But one common tradition is that our people were generally, their feet were generally folded like this. Because remember now, when you come out of the womb, in fact, even in the womb, this is how you look. What is the womb? It's a hole. It's something that you enter through a hole, or you exit through a hole. As you exit through a hole called the womb, you are entered into another hole when you pass, to symbolize the womb once again. So it makes sense to take the position of a fetus. It makes sense to take the position of a fetus. The absence of evidence is not the evidence of absence. Just because Western scholars cannot find their own preferred evidence based on their standards does not mean these things are not there. Does not mean we didn't practice these things. Just because they cannot justify it, or they cannot reconcile with their preconceived notions of what we are. Exactly. How you come in is how you live this world. And that's what we do. It's called ukufuzisela. Ukufuzisela. Senza esikubonileyo. As above, so below. When you get born, you are descending. Uyehla. When you're born, uyehla. I wouldn't bury him, someone seated, laying on their back. I wouldn't do that. That one, it's not make sure. Leyo mkolo, I'm not comfortable with it. I'm sorry. That one, I'm not comfortable with it. Especially because you are putting soil on top of this person. Remember, with ancient kings like pharaohs and stuff, if they lay on the back, they lay on the back, but in an open space. You are born in an open space with things on their sides, things around them. They did not just get buried into a box and hidden on the soil. So it will depend now on the nation you are coming from, how you guys used to do it. Because Remember now, people who stay next to the river are not going to have the same topography as people who stay on top of the mountain. And people who stay on top of the mountain won't have the same topography as people who stayed in a desert. So their burial proceedings are going to differ slightly to suit their environment. But the principles are one. As you came into this world, shall you leave this world. As you came out of the womb, shall you return back. Remember what the womb is. The womb is the mother, or the matter, or the matrix. And what is the soil? The soil is the mother. They call it the Mother Earth. That's why countries are also referred to as women. Understand? Because country is the land. Country is land. In my language, country and land are the exact same thing. So as you came from your mother, you are returning back to your mother. So now, burials were not the same for everyone. A healer is not going to have the same burial as a shaman. A shaman is not going to have the same burial as Imbong. Imbong is not going to have the same burial as a king. And this is what confounds them. They don't understand how come there are mummies in Southern Africa. But mummies are the least of their problems. No, cremations were never performed. I've never come across any evidence that our people respect the organic matter. So to perform a cremation, you would have to burn someone into dust, which is against our principles of organic matter. So you let the person go back into nature naturally. You don't even take organs from them. Heck, you don't even take the soil where they are buried. You don't take the soil where they are buried, because that's why even when a king was buried, they would put guards at the gate of wherever the yard where the king is buried. They would put guards for weeks even, because the guards are there to protect every single thing that has entered that yard. They are there to protect the soil. They are there to protect any piece of cloth there, any skin, because it can be taken to literally destroy the royal family. Sometimes you see fighting in these royal families. You think, hey, these people, they are so toxic. Others are finished. Baloyi. Others, someone got a hold of the some of the soil, especially around the head. Now, in terms of visiting graves, I mean, obviously, graves are places of remembrance. Okay, they are places of remembrance, but also we have a lot of cleansing tradition. So if you come near death, then you have to go into isolation for some time until you are cleansed. So we also have those laws in place. But in terms of graves themselves, you didn't even have to visit them, because graves are in the same place where you stay. I kid you not, back in the day, graves were in the same yard, unless then it's a king or whatever. But there were no communal graves per se for like normal people, because the yard is so massive, it's so big. So the grandmother of the house is going to be buried in this yard, but there, maybe above the farming piece of the yard. We didn't have gardens really, we had farms. So the owner of the house is buried in their own house. In fact, in some instances, kings were buried in their own houses, like inside the place where he used to sleep. He would be buried there, or generally on top of hills. So to visit graves, that would mean visit the old house of the king. It's not like a graveyard that is there somewhere. Yeah, well, it's only recently that our people bury in graveyards. It's a foreign concept. Graveyards are a foreign concept. I know many people, like even if they pass away in Cape Town, they still need the body to be taken back to their ancestral home. So you cannot lay with people that you don't know. You lay with your blood people. So the family lay together, as Malale Kringen is saying. The men near the kraal, the women near the firewood place. The kraal brand is by. The firewood place igok. Igoqo. Now, the spirit of the dead, does it dwell near the grave? Not really. Not really. But in the grave, you can take some things that you can use. Yeah, born. Because that's the last physical place that body was. Obviously, there's aura there. So you can take certain things. If I want to do something bad to you, I can go to the grave, take some soil, especially in the head position. I can take some soil, use that soil to invoke something. But abantu abangasekhoyo generally, even if the body is somewhere else, if let's say they died because of accident, that's why you have to go and collect the spirit at the site of the accident. Although the body is no longer there, but you still have to go there to guide the spirit. But it's not really, has nothing to do with the grave. Where the power is at the kraal, ebuhlantini. That's where the real power is. Honestly speaking, the thing of talking at the grave, like going to the grave and talking, I see it in American movies, that thing. If I'm telling you the truth, I see it in American movies. And please, I'm not saying that graves need to be neglected. Graves are places of remembrance. I repeat, they are places of remembrance to such an extent that if you are passing a heap of graves, let's say graves of kings, you go there, you put what? You put a stone, because our graves were stones. Ubeka is vivaneni, to pay respects to those who have passed. Heck, we even offered libation, but not just at the grave, everywhere. As a child, when we grew up, if there's a cold drink that is bought at home, we can't drink that cold drink unless you take a portion of it, you pour it onto the ground by the entrance of the house. That's how we were raised. Take a portion of this cold drink, go to the door, pour some of it there. That's a libation that you are offering. So even if you're going a long trip and you see a heap of graves, it's vivan. You go to those graves, you put a stone there. If you have something to offer, you offer. That's how it was done back in the day. So what I'm saying is, graves were not necessarily a place of prayer or whatever. It was just a place of remembrance and respect. Now, if you see Zivivane, Aban Bagdala, people in ancient times would ask for a good journey. Yabon would ask for fortune, itamsan, or a good journey, intlach, when they pass this Vivan, and then they would put a stone there. So that's another thing now. Svivane represents an ancient grave. That's what Svivane is. Heck, I would even say it's a primordial form of a pyramid. And you know what a pyramid, one of the functions it had was to operate as a grave for the highest in the society. So that's what I would say. But now, talking about herbs that were used to help in the transition between life and death, many other herbs were used in other ways, especially when it comes to lightning. Now, we refer to lightning as izulu, which is the sky, or umbane. Now, guys, one thing that I think we have lost as a people is the understanding that a lot of things from our history are really just personified natural events or personified physical or metaphysical events. We took them and we personified them, like the earth itself, physical material soil, we personified it. The sky, we personified it. The clouds were personified. The air, the sea, the primordial waters were personified. That's why we have so many different names for these things. Amanzi, amayila, amayiwa, amanunga, imvoto, amacam. It all refers to water, but these names have context. It's not just empty names that we thought of. They have context. A lot of them were names that were given to primordial entities that were personified forms of primordial waters, personified forms of primordial sky. So that's why if you go to ancient Kemet, you'll find Geb or Greb, Umquba, the earth personified. You'll find Nut, the night sky, Unyeti or Unyezi personified. You'll find Nun or Nuna, the waters, Amanunga personified. And people think these are gods. These are not gods per se, but rather entities that have existed for a very, very long time. Our ancestors understood these things as being alive. They understood water as being alive. They understood the earth as being alive. They understood the sky, the air, the trees as being alive. And science tends to prove these things. You understand that these things have a design behind them. These things have a system behind them. These are not just some remote, unalive things, non-living things. They have some level of existence to them. So that's what our ancestors prefaced their understanding of nature on. So when we talk about some of these things, you may think the first ancestor was uNkulunkulu. uNkulunkulu is the first ancestor. But if you go back in time, you realize that it's actually a natural thing that exists in the world, be it the sun. We are born. You understand that Untu is the first ancestor, but Untu itself is actually the earth, the soil, Intutu, the dust of the earth in and of itself. Untu then would marry Ugulu or Uzulu, the daughter of Ugulu, the daughter of Uzulu. That is to say, the earth and the sky married together, but between them, there's something that separates them, Umkati. So if you go back in time and you listen to stories about creation or existence, you understand that, Untu is a person, but Untu is not really a person. It's literally the physical soil. Uzulu is a person, and I'm not talking about Uzulu wa KwaZulu. I'm talking about Uzulu as in the sky. If you go to East Africa, Central Africa, they talk about Gulu, the sky, as being this creature that used to exist, but it's literally the sky. And Asian cultures have a long history of doing this, of personifying things. The exact same thing happens with what? With lightning. Unamba yezulu. Unambezulu or unamba. Now, Nambezulu is a snake that is non-venomous. It's a snake called the boomslang, right? It's a green snake. They call it the boomslang. However, if you listen to the name Nambezulu, the boomslang actually is very venomous. It's highly venomous. Now, if you listen to the name Inamba Yezulu, Zulu is the sky. So they understood lightning as being the snake of the sky. They understood lightning as being the snake of the sky, personified with the name Unamba. This is why when lightning comes, we cover mirrors, we cover shiny objects. When we see storms are coming, an elderly man of the house is going to go outside and speak to the storm, Unamba, with Zulu, and say, Hamba ubuyelembo, kwela mangwane, apho kudliwa khona ngondebe endala. Why does an elder speak to the storm if the storm is merely a climatological reality? It's a natural occurrence. It's merely a natural occurrence. So why are ancient people talking to these things? Because in the ancient mind, these are personified natural events. Nature were humans before. That's what the ancients have been telling us. When I hear people talking about, we are the first nation. We are the first nation. But go to the ancient ancestors. They tell you the first nations are the nature. These are the true first nation. Those who were there first. The Kam, the Kleng, the sun and the moon. The stars. The tailed creatures that used to have tails. If you look at the drawings on the walls, you see entities that had tails. Do you not understand that when a star is shooting in the sky, it has a tail? Inkwenkwezi enchocholozi. Inotobo. Inkwenkwezi enotobo. Because that's what our ancestors understood, that these creatures used to have tails. So when there's a moving star there, or a meteorite, or a comet, during comet showers, our ancestors understood as things being the primordial entities that they found in the world before existence even occurred. So the personification of nature comes from a deep respect for nature. It comes from a deep respect for nature. That's why our elders used to come outside when there's thunder. They go and speak to the thunder, Baba. Embo. kwela mangwane, or embo, emampondweni, or embo, apho kudliwa khona ndibetala. What they're saying is that move along. Go to the country that has abambo people. Move along. And this rain entity, this rain deity called Unamba, was said that that rain deity keeps on following wherever amabele are planted. Wherever there's sorghum planted, it kept on following sorghum. So our people were like, no, there's more sorghum there. So go there and you will find what you're looking for. So do you understand then where the talking to nature comes in? And the Europeans came and like, no, guys, these things are stupid, man. You guys are backwards. Why are you talking to the sky? Why are you talking to the sea? Why are you talking to rivers, man? Why are you coming to rivers and talking? Why are you talking to trees? Okay, we hear you. We hear you guys. We've stopped talking to rivers. We've stopped talking to what is these things now? We've stopped talking to rivers. We've stopped talking to trees. We're just gonna go and join capitalism because you guys said we are backwards. Eh? You guys said we are backwards. Now they come and make you pay to go and hug trees. You will pay 2,000 for a resort to go and hug bloody trees. When you could communicate with those trees, when you take the roots of Igobongo, when you take the roots of Isilawu, you could instruct it that xandipehla le mbiza makwenzeke oku noku noku ukhafule uhlabe ngomkhondo and things would happen. Now you have to pay 2,000 to walk on grass. The sea lulwagcibe bantwana begazi. The sea lulwagcibe. When you talk about ulwagcibe or ulwagcebe, you're talking about the sea. That's what the sea is. Kuselagcibeni. Emlanjeni kusemzini omkhulu. Sitshingitshane zomoya madoda saselagcibeni. That's what the sea is. Inamba is a python. It is the python. It's actually the python sebaye. That's its indigenous, not indigenous, man. Scientific name, python sebaye. That's what Inamba is. Inambezulu is the boomslang. Dyspholidus typus. That's the scientific name, Inambezulu. And then you have Imamba, the so-called mamba snake, the black mamba. So the lightning and the storm are known as Unamba, the stone entity known as Umamba. Ikhamba is a viper. Intlwathi is also a python, yes. Intlwathi is another name of a python. So a python can be called Inamba or Intlwathi. And then a viper is called Ikhamba. Ikhamba madoda elidle ezinye. And then the boomslang is called Unambezulu. It's called Unambezulu. So we could communicate. Well, those who still maintain indigenous way of life, they talk to Ulwandle, Ulagcibe. They talk to Umlambo, Umzomkhulu, the great house. They talk to these things. Thank you, Emmy. Thank you, everyone, for the gifts. You guys, if you can gift, please gift. Thank you, my people. Thank you. Indeed, we have Ipimpi, the cobra. That's the surname of that rugby player called Mapimpi. Mapimpi means cobras. I don't know what the people who call him Mapimpi are talking about. It's Mapimpi, the cobras. It's Mapimpi, the cobras. So now you have to pay 5,000 rand, 2,000 rand for a resort where they're gonna tell you to walk on grass. Inga Utyani. When we walked on grass, if I remember well, if my memory serves me well, I was told that I was backwards and uncouth and uncivilized. But now I must pay you. I must pay you now to walk on grass. My daughter. Hi, it's a scam. Now, isiziba is really a whirlpool. It's a whirlpool of water in a river. So isiziba is actually the palace of a river. Ngowona mzi womkhulu wasemzini omkhulu isiziba. Ngowona mzi omkhulu wasemzini omkhulu. That's isiziba. It's the real palace. Ulwagcibe or ulagcibe, it's the sea, but also a sandy and rocky beach with bush along the shore. If you look at the Eastern Cape, the wild coast is full of ulagcibe. Those kind of beaches with sand and rocks and trees are called ulwagcibe. They are called ulwagcibe. And then the greater ocean, basically lulwandle, really. So where our people use these names to refer even to ulwandle itself, the ocean, kuselagcibeni, the sea, the river, kusemzini omkhulu. Kukho abahlekazi in those people. Ichibi now is a lake similar to Idike. But the names like Chibi and Ziba, Isiziba, those names are actually related. Those names are related if you actually look at them. That's why even the names of some of the ancestors, if you listen to some of the ancestors' names, it's nature. Like Amandebele, they talk about Umusi, Nomhlanga. Umusi is literally umsi, smoke. Umhlanga is the reeds. Amahlubi will talk about Unkungu. Inkungu is the mist. Yeah? Inkungu is the mist. Thank you, Liema. Thank you so much. So sometimes we need to understand these things, guys. We are personifying nature. And we relate some of our kings then to these things. I was listening to this other Umhlanga of Eswatini. But Umswati inkunzi ehlaba ezinye. You understand? Inkunzi ehlaba ezinye. Obviously, that's a bull. A cow. That's a cow. Ushaka bambiza ilembe. Lizembe, ilembe. Ilembe leqama. But we know the story of how he got the name. 5 generations, 6 generations from now, people will have forgotten this thing. So, now, anyway, back to the lightning now. Unamba, the deity of lightning, is closely linked to Unganyamba. Unganyamba, because Unganyamba has to do with storms and thunderstorms and cyclones. We are born. So you're gonna see most people now in areas that tend to have thunderstorms and lightning and cyclones will revere. They will revere things like Nkanyamba, no Namba. We are born. Now, what happens when lightning strikes? Lightning is also related to another bird known as Impundulu. Now, Impundulu, you would do well to know that Impundulu is an actual animal, a real animal, called Hammerkop or Ukhimqoshe or Utekwane. This is one bird. Impundulu is also called Utekwane, also called Ukhimqoshe. That is Impundulu. That's one bird. This bird, now if you go and study this bird, firstly, the way it builds, the way this bird builds its nest, it's so massive. Even leopards come and rest on top of it. Other animals, they come and build their nest on top of it. It's called a hammerhead in English. It's a hammerhead. In Afrikaans, it's Hammerkop. Thina ke siyibiza uQhimqoshe or uThekwana or Impundulu. Now this bird, why it's related to lightning? Because kuthiwa yintaka ezulu or inyoni yezulu. It's related to lightning because this bird, firstly, this bird hunts in the waters. It fishes in the waters. Impundulu is uqhingqoshe. It's utekwana. That's what impundulu is. This bird eats fish a lot and frogs and other things in the water. It spends hours and hours in the water, this bird. They looked at the head, but hey, the head looks like a hammer. Now, it spends hours on top of the water because it eats from there. But this bird, you will see it flying and coming out, especially when there's going to be a storm, because they can see the clouds. Remember now, there are different types of clouds that symbolize different types of climates. When you see altocumulus clouds and cumulonimbus clouds, for those who did climatology, we know that there's a cold front that's coming. We know that there's a storm. We see the different types of clouds and we understand that there's a specific type of weather we can expect. Animals, they're even better at that. Tinaga, we used to look at birds like amangangane, the hadida. We used to look at birds like that. If you see those birds flying in that V formation, we know that there's rain. To this day, if I see those birds flying, I know rain is coming. So animals, they understand these patterns. They understand these patterns. And Impundulu is one of those animals. It comes out especially when there's about to be thunders and lightning. And it's called the lightning bird because of that. Now, ancients were saying that this bird used to burn itself in the fire of lightning. It burns its coals. As it burns its coals, they go down to hit the earth. And when it hits the earth, the lightning, there's some charged substances that are left there. Those charged substances are called umgubo kaphezulu. Umgubo kaphezulu, the powder of the sky, or the powder of the sky entity. Umgubo kaphezulu. Now, ancient doctors and chemists, which people call shamans and izangoma, these are chemists. They would take that charred powder from the lightning and use it to concoct some powerful concoctions. Yay! They operate your mind, baba. You will go around driving a car that nobody sees, but you have a lid of a bucket. It's a lid of a bucket. Hush. So ancient chemists, they would take that powder from the lightning when the lightning strikes, and they would mix it with other concoctions. But there's another thing that forms when lightning strikes. It's called fulgurites, I think, or fulgurites. I'm not sure of the English name of it. It's substances that tend to mimic. I don't have a good picture. It's substances that tend to mimic umkhondo in a way, like a tiny kind of umkhondo. This thing forms after lightning. Sometimes, this thing forms after lightning. Sometimes, this is also taken now by the chemists we call izangoma to go and manipulate the powers and the chemical properties, and they use this. Hopefully, you must hope they're using it for good purposes, because if it's used for bad purposes, I feel sorry for the person it's sent against. I feel sorry. But if lightning does happen to strike you, you better run to someone who can take out that thing that is stuck in your anus. Kunendo that we call ingata, that is stuck in your anus when lightning strikes you. That ngata needs to be removed for you to survive. If you do happen to survive by some reason, you may end up losing your mind, having memory loss problems. Actually, I know a family member who passed away because of being struck by lightning, and I know someone who survived. He was struck by lightning in Limpopo. They dealt with him there. He was struck by lightning in Limpopo, and he started to have dementia. What is it? Amnesia. Like seriously starting to lose his mind day after day. This guy was doing his laundry outside, washing his shirts and stuff. And lightning came and struck him. By the time he woke up, his head was literally inside the basin. His head was literally inside the basin. He was telling me, he started losing his mind after that. Even the guy who's training him was like, hey, my friend, I think we need to move you to another province. This province is too dangerous for you. Yeah, bo. Because he was dealing with some spiritual things there in Limpopo. The people were like, we'll show you. Hey, they struck him with lightning and he was still young that time. He wasn't really aware of how these things work. He was struck by lightning. But also, I know a family member who was struck by lightning. They never survived. Even better, in maybe 3 years ago or 4 years ago, 2 guys were struck by lightning. One ran to this other old woman. This woman removed what was in the anus, inqatha, removed it. He survived. The second one, he died at the gate. He died as he was entering. So the strike of lightning is so powerful. It leaves both environmental debris, which we call umgubo phezulu, and that one is used to make umuthi. It's used to make umuthi. And in the understanding of using umuthi, guys, you must know the people who use these things already, when they go to collect those things, they've prepared themselves, bona. They don't just go to take those substances. They've prepared themselves with concoctions to be strong. Because you would be taking that thing there, and the next thing, you leave your mind there. You take the powder, but you leave your mind there. So those are other areas you need to be aware of. That's why I always tell people, like, just don't get involved with these things, man. If you don't understand what you're doing, do not get involved. Because these are dangerous, ancient things. And people who have not been trained sufficiently, will suffer. They will suffer. When lightning strikes, kuyanuka. It takes things that are underground, deep underground, it brings them to the surface. So Impundulu is not just spiritual, it's actually a literal bird. But yes, it is the spirit thunderbird, but it's also a literal bird, like an actual animal. It is an actual animal. I will just put a picture of Impundulu here quickly. Because I realize that people don't actually know this, that Impundulu is an actual bird. Now, Impundulu tends to be related to women because it has shape-shifting abilities, and it shape-shifts into this male figure. Now, that's why a lot of the times now, women are going to be accused of having Impundulu because it's a male energy. Whereas men will be accused of having umamlambo or ikhanti because that's a feminine energy. If you remember, back in the day, Umsholo's Jacob Zuma was said to have umamlambo in his pool. Remember, it was trending and people did some poor editing. They put some mermaids. That look European. So you have this feminine and masculine energy. So Impundulu is said to be feminine. It's also said to sexually satisfy women, actually. I'm saying it as it is. Just like Ikhandi is said to satisfy men. In fact, I know one guy. Today he goes around praying for people. But back in the day, he used to be a very powerful Sangoma. Now, how he stopped to be a Sangoma, his power did not come naturally only. He actually wahamba yothwala ngenyoka ikhandi. Now, you have to actually offer something for these things to work for you. They feed off energy, like life, basically. So I'm sure he started offering his family, blah, blah, blah. But this thing now demanded that it wants the last born. It demanded the last born from him. This is the story that he tells himself. Like, Endod, I want that last born of yours, man, yabo. He's like, no, you can't have my last born. He's talking to the snake, man. The snake looks like a woman, of course. He sleeps with it at night, most, yabo. The wife understands. In the house that the spirits stay in. He has to go and sleep there. Whatever you call it, it doesn't matter. He wants to sleep with this thing. This thing's like, no, I want your daughter, your last born. Indeed, it is a snake of the water. In fact, a version of it is what gives people. A version of Ikhanti is what gives people power. The people about Twasangamans, they get their abilities. Well, not abilities, but they are protected by Ikhanti. It's like a guardian of the water beings. Anyway, what happened in the morning when this guy woke up? He heard the scream of the woman. And he ran to the room. The child was dead. And then there was blood coming out of the nose. I kid you not. The child was gone. There was blood coming out of the nose. And then he perceived on the ceiling, he saw this thing moving there. Now, you need to understand, guys, these things are not... Kumelo, you can't see these things unless you are allowed to see them. You're not going to see the snake unless you're allowed to see it. Now, if you happen to see the snake, if it happens to show itself unto you, we call that ugwelama. Ugwelama, which means you've recognized it. And if you don't get immediate attention, you're going to suffer the consequences of ugwelama. You're going to lose your sight, you're going to lose your hearing, you're going to lose your sanity, literally. Or you'll get sick. So what happens after ugwelama, they go and do some kind of ceremony to sort of like, evade whatever the consequences are. But there are ways to see these things without having repercussions. And the way it's done is through what we call intlanga. Intlanga is a plural of the word uhlanga. Thank you, my brother Makara. Uhlanga is what? Uhlanga is an incision that is done to your body. When we cut an incision in your body, we cut it such that we can put something through your blood. What we normally put through let me not include myself. What's normally put in your blood is a powder. Sometimes it's mixed with certain things. I'll give you an example, a real life example. A python is called intloat or inamba. The skin of a dead python can be ground into powder, mixed with ground umdlebe. It's called the wailing, the blood tree or the dragon tree. I'm not sure what they call the tree in English, but umdlebe is a tree that, it's called the Socotra dragon tree. This tree bleeds when you look at it. It's releasing blood. If you've ever watched Game of Thrones, you would know that they had these trees that they used to pray to the old gods. If you remember Brendan, the three-eyed raven, there's this tree that's like crying there. So we have a tree like that called umdlebe here in Southern Africa. This tree is used to invoke the spirits that people know as amakhosi today, the spirits that people know as amabutho today. A lot of these are invoked using umdlebe or trees that are in the same family as umdlebe. Now, umdlebe can be mixed with things like the skin of a python. It could even be an albino python. And this is where people start to abduct people who live with albinism wrongly. They take people who live with albinism wrongly. But usually it's an albino python, which is reminiscent of some kind of Komodo dragon, albino Komodo dragon, which I had a vision about a few weeks ago trying to attack me, and I killed it like nobody's business because I know there's some bloody church leader who's trying to come for me. But that's besides the point. Anyway, so they will take something like a skin of a python, powder of umdlebe. Generally, people who go to take umdlebe would have to offer a goat. I haven't been there myself. I'm sorry, I haven't been there. But the guy who's been there told me that he had to let the goat go. Thank you. He had to let the goat go on its own and be chowed and then get the umdlebe. Now, umdlebe is powerful because people use it to sort of like invoke amakhubalo, to invoke amakhos, to invoke these different types of spirits that you can invoke, basically. I'm not going to get too deep into it. I know it's going to sound creepy for some people. I'm just sharing information, guys. I'm not telling you to do this or that. Please. I don't want you to live this live and say, hey, guys, I want umdlebe. Hey, you'll die. Those things are going to kill you, man. Anyway, so now they will take, and then when we do intlanga is a plural from uhlanga. Uhlanga is like, you see when a snake bites you, When a snake bites you, if you look at the teeth of a snake, they're actually not really teeth to chew. It's just needles to do an inoculation, to open a hole in your body and inject a venom. That's what the eyes of the teeth of a snake do. They are just needles, natural needles that cut you and do an inoculation. So when intlanga are cut in your body, these are small incisions. They are different from ukuchaza or ukugaba. Intlanga are much smaller incisions such that blood flows out of your body, and then powders. It could be a powder of umdlebe, it could be a powder of python snake. They could be mixed together with other powders called intsizi and mihlabelo. Now, what is intsizi? Intsizi comes from the word umsizi, which means ash. Umsizi could be herbs that were burnt into ash, such as herbs that are usually eaten by animals like baboons. So animals like baboons have a reputation of not being easy to die. And I always refer to baboons because baboons rank very high in the hierarchy of powerful medications. Anything that belongs to a baboon, whether it's baboon skin, the baboon hand, that's why when there's something that's foul, let's say a child passes away in a way that's not make sure, people would say ingathi kukhona unyawo lwemfene. Kukhona unyawo lwemfene olukhoyo apho, or sikhona isandla semfene esikhoyo, which means there's something that's not making sense here, because baboons can go to your field and steal all your corn and you're not going to catch them. But also it's hard to find a dead baboon. It's very hard because they're so secretive about everything. So our ancestors used to observe these things, find the specific types of herbs, amakwili, the tubes that they eat, the roots they eat, take those roots, burn them into powders, form what we know today as intsizi. Another name for intsizi is ikhubalo labathakati, ikhubalo lotikolosh. What is ikhubalo? Ikhubalo comes from a word which means to band together, inkatha. Now, to mix together is to form ikhubalo, inkatha. Ikhubalo labathakati is a mixture or a concoction that is used by people abathakatayo or tikolosh. What is the one thing that tikolosh is known for? Tikolosh is known for being invisible. Like you're not going to be able to see it unless it allows you to see it, or you have the sight. So ikhubalo labathakati then is what we call intsizi. The idea behind putting intsizi in a person's body is purely for protection, such that whoever you are coming across who has bad intentions on you, they're not going to see you coming. I kid you not. We used intsizi in ancient days to even hunt. So the hand that you use to hunt, we make incisions there, says in sense we put intsizi inside. So anyway, so how then do people get to see these creatures such as ikhanti, inyoka yamanzi, and these other creatures? They have inoculation that is put in their bodies, like a kind of vaccination, a kind of indigenous vaccination. Indigenous people call it ukuqinisa or ukuqaphula. When inoculation or incisions are cut in your body and certain herbs are rubbed into those incisions, take that as a vaccination in our indigenous culture. That's what vaccination is, a preventative measure that is meant to cleanse whatever may be already inside you and whatever may be seeking you. So that's what happens then when the lightning strikes. We understand it as being a manifestation of inamba yezulu, the sky python. That's what the name is, the sky python. That's the manifested lightning. There's another one just next to it called inganyamba or khanyapa. Now this one is sort of like a dragonian reptilian that has the face of a horse. It has a horse-like face. If that's not a dragon, I don't know what is. If inganyamba is not a dragon, I do not know what is, because it is said to have a face that looks like a horse. That's inganyamba. Now, if you see how a horse looks like, it definitely resembles a dragon. Now, inganyamba is more into hurricanes and storms. But remember now, as I was talking about portals in recent days. These elements have something to do with water a lot of the times and weather. When we talk about unamba wezulu, the lightning, this is what the Europeans call Thor. If you've watched the Marvel movies, you would know what Thor is. The name Thor in and of itself actually literally means thunder. It means thunder. This is why in Afrikaans Thursday is called Donderdag, the thunder day, the day of thunder. In fact, the name Thursday itself is the day of Thor. So this is in essence Thor. In actual fact, if you go to ancient Greece, I was reading a passage by Herodotus himself. If you go to ancient Greece, a lot of the so-called gods they have there, they're actually copycats of African entities. Yes, Jupiter. Jupiter actually is sky father. Sky father. Or Utata Olilanga. Literally, Jupiter means the sun father. Dew means the sky, but dew actually means the sun. The word dew is also related to words like deus or dios and theo, as in theology, theo, dios, deus. All those words mean God, but they ultimately means the sun. And Peter, dew, Peter. Peter is pater, which is in other cognates, father or father. So Jupiter is sun father. Ulanga. Ulanga lokulunga. That's why we have emalangeni. That's why we build our houses facing the east indigenously. They face the east because you want to harness the power of the morning sun, the power of the rising sun, which is what we call Juba or Zuba or the Duba. Duba means upakama. Tsuga. Vuka. Ivuka. In fact, Amaxhosa even called the sun Impakama, the rising one. Impakama, Juba or Duba, Ilanga. Someone said even the clan Dubazane is in reference to little sun. Amaxhosa, one of their ancestors, is a man called Malangane. So I go back to my point that if we abandon the wisdom of the ancients, ancestral wisdom, we're not going to understand who we are. We're not going to understand. We're going to listen to lies that are being told about us and we're going to believe them because we have no concept of what it means to exist outside of those lies. And to be able to exist outside of the lies that we are told about ourselves, we have to absolutely disconnect with the lies themselves. Like entirely. Why do you have to pay 2,000 Rand for a resort where you're going to be walking on grass and hugging a tree? When I did it before 1652, I was told that I'm some uncouth African who's subhuman. When I was speaking to trees, when I speak to Umdlebe, when I speak to Inwadi, when I speak to Intelezi, and tell this Intelezi, remove Isimyama, remove Amashwa, remove Umdaga, you say I'm doing witchcraft. Why? So when I talk to plants, I'm the crazy one. But you'd rather go pay 5,000 Rand and go to a resort somewhere in Kruger National Park because it makes more sense to you. So igobongo ke eli, igobongo, islawu. It's not something that you just use. You actually talk to islawu. You talk to it as you are shaking it up and the foam is coming. The foam is a sign of alignment. Sithi livumile icamagu. Because icamagu, what is it? Imimoya macamagu. And those who guide imimoya and those who propitiate imimoya, those ones, they are called amacamagu. When they speak to that ibegilelen, and it's not even a thing of isangoma, this thing, any home should be able to have access to this. Some people call it ispili, indeed. You mix with this thing, you take some of it, you take the foam, you swallow it, you swallow the foam, you swallow the foam, you'll start burping. You start burping like nobody's business. But if you do that dance around that damn bloody fire that symbolizes the sun or the portal of the observer, the sun or the eye of the observer. If you do that bloody dance around that fire anti-clockwise and you drank this incwadi mixed with ubulawo igobongo, I promise you, but maybe you shouldn't do it actually, because these things are dangerous. It's done by people who are experienced. But igobongo alone is not dangerous. It's just gonna sharpen your senses. It's gonna sharpen your senses. Don't mix things that you're gonna lose your mind. You're gonna lose it. Emathuneni sobonana emathuneni. These things are dangerous, guys. These are dangerous. You know, you will start seeing things that are not there. So how it's normally done, ubulawo, you shake it up, ubulawo, you talk. Obvious, when you talk, uyazichaza ke handi ngusandile mna unyana kakhungu ngokasigova ugoqoza okasizinzo okathukana ndinguhlathu jamba sulisa ucaza sazathlango vele usidulungu bemhlophe nzalo emanzi uthonyile sumaphango ngqalo nqake nqanqa sinoxoxoxa wele ledo bephambili phosa mtshene tholo luzini oyini bafazi bentsikile tshona iphaza mthabathi isidoda. And then you say different incantations, uyanqulu ucamagusha. You take the foam. Remember now, you must be careful of the time. Tinage, how we used to do it. Early morning before sunrise, you take some of the foam. You go, after you take the foam, you do what we call ukukhafula. In your hand, you have umkhondo. Or if you don't have umkhondo, then I guess a stick. You take the foam, you swallow it. Igobongo. This one is called, in isiZulu, it's incwadi. Just go look for incwadi herb in isiZulu. It's used for many different things. It's used as a painkiller. It's used as an anesthetic. It's used also as a hallucinogenic. Yeah. So I'm talking about the hallucinogenic properties now, combined with the psychoactive properties of igobongo, islao. You take the foam, you swallow some of it, swallow some of it. And then you shake it again. Swallow again, and then you shake it again. Then after you shake it, you take the foam with your mouth. You don't swallow now. You go sunrise, the side of the east. The side of the east, you spit out the foam. And then you pierce through the spit. You pierce through the spit. Uhlaba umkhafulo towards the east. Uhlaba umkhafulo towards the west. Uhlaba umkhafulo towards the east. Uhlaba umkhafulo towards the west. When you're done, you go take some of the foam, you smear it on your face and on your ears so that you can hear the things you can't hear now. On your eyes so that you can see the things you can't see. But generally, what you also want to do, let's say after 3 days, because again, you will use the same thing like for 3, 4, 5 days. After 5 days now, you wake up at 3 a.m., you go wash with it. Cold. This is why I say people who are walking to work, you need to, if you see on the road that you're walking, someone spilled water there, and you see this water has little inkambi zomthi. You can see little, pieces of wood, pieces of herbs. Don't jump that thing. Move along the side. Because the way they spill it on the road, it's across perpendicular, so that you are forced to jump over. This is where umeko comes from. You jump over, you take everything that person was releasing. You take everything that person was releasing. Next thing, you get to work within a week, your manager doesn't like you anymore. Aibo, what did I do to this guy? Your partner doesn't want you anymore. When they're next to you, something is chasing them away. They see a monster when they look at you. Even children now in the street, they fear you. Oh, yeah, this person is weird, guys. And you'll be like, oh, no, I'm an introvert. No, you're not an introvert. What's umeko? You have umeko and you took those person's things. And I'm not saying people are not introverts. I'm an introvert myself. But sometimes you just have to be honest about these things. Don't take things you see. Don't take coins on the road. Don't take silver coins. Don't take brown. I don't care how broke you are. Do not take. And don't just give as well. If you need to give someone you know what we used to do? If you give someone a note, you need to pierce it with a needle or spell it. If you spell it, just pierce a little hole, then give that person. You will thank me later. I said you will thank me later. Because the problem is that as we speak, people's lives are inside calabashes. People's lives are inside calabashes on top of rivers. The entire family, all the names are there. Every year or every 3 years, one name is removed from the calabash. Boom. Rest in peace. Another name is removed from the calabash. Boom. Oh, he was so young. Haibo. The entire family, Yapel family. Because people had access to something of value to you. A coin, a t-shirt, a piece of cloth. You need to be careful now about these things. It is unfortunate that this kind of wisdom is no longer there because I agree we live in a delusional American Disneyland life now. Oh no, these things are not real. And I'll be there next to you like, they really are not real, eh? Mara, I'm finishing you now. Now. Hey, guys. Yeah. There's another tree called the white ironwood tree. Now it's made into powder and it's sprinkled. Now these are some of, you see, the most powerful herbs were used for what? For armies. This one is called the white ironwood. Umzane, umngamazele, muruvula, muondwa. That one is also a powerful herb. Powerful. Those are herbs for protection. Those are herbs for protection. It's amazing to me how our people will believe things when they watch them when they are European. Like things like shape-shifting. They believe them when they're European, eh? The last herb is called white ironwood. White ironwood in English. In Afrikaans is wet-eysterwood. In Xitsonga is murubula. In Tshivenda it's muhondwa. NgesiXhosa ngumzane. I think ngesiZulu umozana. Umozana. Now that one, if you use it as powder and you sprinkle it in your surroundings, maybe if you live in a yard that has 4 corners, you go around the 4 corners, you open little holes, you sprinkle it, then you go to the gate, you dig in front of the gate, you sprinkle it. That one, it chases, it cleanses actually. It cleanses. And when we talk about cleansing, guys, this is not beliefs. These are not beliefs. These are scientifically testable things. You can just test it scientifically. If you can test the chemical contents of the soil up before you put that thing and after, you will see the difference. In fact, things like incense, impepo, when we say they're cleansing the air, the aura, we're not just saying it in J because we believe. It's scientifically proven. It even removes impurities. It removes bacteria. It removes certain other creatures, microorganisms and stuff like that. You understand? Yes, I am available on YouTube, guys. I must say that I thank you guys. I have seen your. You see now I'm at 1,500 subscribers. Just go there. Please watch my videos. I post all the lives there. Go there and subscribe and watch my videos. And watch, man. You know, like watch. Even if you're not able to finish it, you can forward it to certain parts. If let's say maybe you feel like the network is Yasogolisa, move forward it. The lives have got so much information on them. And I think now the lives have crossed like 50 hours altogether, and I've posted all of them. So the channel has about 120 something videos already. So yeah, you can just go and access some of these things. So now here's the thing. There's a lot of some of these things, herbs, were scientifically proven. In fact, they are being used now to sell things. Like I buy buchu tea. Thank you. I will buy buchu tea at Woolworths. But if I make buchu na for myself and burn it, it's evil. But I must buy buchu tea at Woolworths. Do you know buchu is an indigenous name? I know people think it's buchu. It's not buchu, it's buchu. In fact, the Xhosa king Uyinza, his brother was buchu. His brother was buchu. The cycad tree is used to ward off Izulu. I know it very well. The cycad tree is used to ward off Izulu. It's one of the trees that are used to ward off Izulu. Yeah, bo. And that's the thing. So what would happen is that sometimes elderly people would just plant the tree in the yard. And I don't know, we didn't understand. We didn't understand why do we have this tree here. They know, Bona. They know the ability of the tree. For example, when I was young in Lini, there was this tree that used to be hanged in front of the door, like above the door. It's there as a deco. But it's not a deco. It has a much deeper function than just decoration. Yeah, but it's there as a protection thing. It's like how the Muslims will have the eye necklace. And it's how the Catholics will have the rosary. Did you know that the rosary is actually umuti, ikubalo? It's literally umuti, like what we call umkok. The rosaries of the Catholics, gumkok, the tree that we use for intlahla even. It's good when the Catholics wear it and the Muslims wear the eye. But it's bad when you have a cycad tree in your yard. Ah, no, don't do those things. When you have imfingo in your yard, it's bad. Aye, guys, man. No, they must not play with us, these people. They must not play with us, these people. Huh? So the cycad is also used to counteract. It's also used to counteract bad stuff. Its scientific name is Stangeria paradoxa. Stangeria paradoxa. So you can have this kind of trees, even if it's not inside. Even if it's not inside your yard, like just by the gate, you have the tree there. Because some of them are too big to have in your house. They're too big to have in your house. But right now, next to me, there's a plant just next to me. And tell you what, sometimes things that are supposed to get you go to the plant. It sacrifices itself for you, just like having pets. For us, pets are not things to sleep in bed and kiss all day. We love pets, but we also respect them for their spiritual role. I kid you not. You better listen to someone who has seen these things firsthand. I kid you not. It's good to have pets. Not just have them, but understand their communication with you. It's good to have animals generally, to understand their communication with you. You know, we know when you have cows around, things we're supposed to have you are gonna get the cow. Because remember, guys, you only see a tiny portion of the reality we live in. You literally only see a tiny portion. Animals see way more than you. Why do you think dogs are barking at things you can't see? They can see them. Dogs can see these things. You can't. It's scientifically proven. Dogs see way more than you. They see way more than you. Snakes see more than you. Birds see more than you. They see lights that are not perceivable in the physical eye of the human. So do you understand? Like, it's a scientific thing. It's not some indigenous thing only. It's scientifically proven. Go and research on it. What can dogs see that human can't? Do you understand? They perceive other frequencies that you can't perceive. Physically, at least. I lost a dog. I think I was 12. But I understand the dog had to take a place of a human. It's around 2 a.m. We call the dog Ushwi. That was its name. Shwi. Like Ushwi Nomdekala. So we call the dog Ushwi. The dog was barking heavily at 2 a.m. Tinaga, we never used to tie chains around dogs, but we used to close the gate. The dog was barking at 2 a.m., barking, barking, barking. It kept on barking until we couldn't hear the bark anymore. Like, you could hear the bark at a distance, and it kept on barking forever until it disappeared. To this day, nobody knows what happened to the dog. But I say it would have happened to one of us. It would have happened to one of us. Yeah, bon. So even when I do have dogs now, I don't do the whole thing of ukuzvala. I let the dogs give birth. You understand? It's good to have life around, like dogs. If you can afford birds, have birds. Have birds in the house. You will understand the chirping of the bird. When it sees something dangerous, you will understand the tone and the pitch of the chirps. You will know if you had a garden at home growing up. Tina, we had a garden at home growing up. Spinach, potatoes, mint, pumpkin, apple, peaches, all those things I learned from my mother. I learned how to plant them, beans, peas, etc. But we also used to throw food now to the garden so that there's some level of fertilizer that forms organically. Now, birds come all the time, especially sparrows. Ingabe, onoqaza, nononcane. They come a lot, pink warblers and sparrows. And you get a lot of pigeons as well, amavukudu. Now, when these birds come, there's a specific kind of chirping that it's a normal hot day. We understand the chirping. But when they see a dangerous thing, they change the pitch. They make noise. They become, irritated. And you go and check, you will see, trust me, you will see a lizard. You will see a snake. You understand? You will see a lizard, you will see a snake. Now, there was once a time when one of my sister's kids, the father is from the Majola clan. Now, the Majola clan, they are related to the Majola snake. Yeah, bon. So the snake does come every once in a while. But we know it because it doesn't harm anyone. It came. It entered the house. It entered the house. It's called the mole snake. It entered the house and then it left. We put methylated spirits so that it gets out fast. Because Tina, we don't have a snake, Tina, as our clan. We are the baboon people. They understand. And also we take pigeons. Amavukudu. We take pigeons, doves as my mother's bird. Absolutely, our spirituality is centered around nature. And remember, guys, nature is senior. Nature was here before anything. Stars, the sun, the air. Without these things, we could not have existed. Do you understand? We could not have existed. So nature is at the center of our spiritual systems. And they are designed particularly to preserve it. It's just crazy to me now that Van Tonder is going to tell me, don't know, you guys must preserve nature. No, you are the ones who's taking all the nature and destroying it and building apartments. It's not me. It's you. So now, talking about this herb and its hallucinogenic properties. What would you see when you hallucinate? Now remember, guys, these things are taken by people who are experienced, people who know what they're doing. So what normally happens is, in the training of ukutwasa, for example, amatwasa and have to be trained to be able to see things. You understand? They have to be trained to see things. So generally what would happen on a normal weekday, Itwasa has a stick that they must carry with them at all times. That stick is going to be taken and hidden, even if it's hidden 5 streets away, without the Twasa's knowledge. By using herbs like this, you are trying to allow the Twasa to explore those abilities of sight. So they may see something like a lightning strike. That's what my mother saw, at least when they hid her chickens. I agree, there's chickens like white chickens, red chickens, chicken and black and white, variegated chickens that are going to be used for the ceremony. But the ceremony cannot go unless you go and find where those chickens are hidden. So my mother, they hid her chickens, I think, if not her hat, umpukulu. So Utiana, she saw every time she passed a place where the chickens were hidden, she saw a lightning strike, but she's the only one who sees it. You understand? She's the only one who sees it. So she sees a lightning strike, va, and then she knows she has to go there. She sees a lightning strike, bah, then she knows she has to go there. So it depends. But for the people who are highly experienced, what they experience when they drink this together with bulau, both psychoactive and hallucinogenic herbs, what they experience is that they can interact with other beings. It is unfortunate that I do not have the documentary, but there's a documentary that I'm going to show you guys someday. There's a documentary that I'm going to show you someday. As this dance continues, this dance is called the full moon dance. Full moon is very central to some of these things. Because even the lightning fulgurite, the fulgurite that is taken after lightning, we wait for the full moon. You don't just go and take where the lightning struck. You wait for the full moon and then you go and take. Same thing now with this dance. It's a dance that is done around the full moon. Now the senior grichab will take and dance around the fire anti-clockwise. The grichab can experience two things or even three. I will explain them. One, when you do the dancing, vibrating, and you will get to a level of dancing or a level of mind called tchum or tchom. Tchum or tchom means complete silence or death or complete sleep. In fact, we use this word if I slept very nice. Someone is asking me, how did you sleep? I can say, oh, I'm the late tchum. When you reach the state of tchum now, you can actually exit the physical perception. So you can see things from outside the body, not from inside. So it's like you've touched a particular portal within you, which I suspect is a combination of a couple of portals, including the pineal gland. So you exit, you have an out-of-body experience. If you know anything about astral projection, you have something similar, something powerful, something more vivid. Then you can go and interact with cosmic bodies or what seems to be star people. You understand? So one of the elder Grichab, when he narrates his story, he was able to actually go and get some knowledge. He visits the different stars. When you see him sleeping there for 5 minutes, he's visiting different stars. He comes back with new ways of healing. Literally new ways of healing. That's one way. Two, when you reach that state of tchum and you exit, when you exit the physical form, you see something like a cylinder, like a long cylinder that goes up. This is a light form. It's like a cylinder that goes up and it allows you to travel through it. You understand? Now, I will tell you why our ancestors talk about umhlanga so much. I'll tell you shortly. But this tchum, it's CUM or capital. I'm just gonna write it for you. Tchum. I'm just gonna write it for you. So now, this cylindrical light form or beam is what allows these people travel up and down. So they can go deep, plunge deep into the hole, what you would call the underworld, or go up in the heavenly bodies, the other realms. This is big in our mythology as well. We talk a lot about waMadzikane. Gongongo means to plunge deep into a hole, the underworld. We also talk about imiti, umthwemboki, kamajeke, that goes and penetrates the sky. We also talk about umhlanga. We also talk about umhlanga heavily, which, if you actually think about it, is the home of planet Earth in and of itself. If you understand the home of planet Earth, our planet is born somewhere itself. in the long read. In the long read called the Milky Way. That's what we perceive the Milky Way as. We perceive the Milky Way as a long reed, umhlanga, that exploded and we came out of. Exploded and we came out of. This galaxy, umhlanga, it contains our solar system. Literally, we come out of that. That's our home. That galaxy called, that's just what the portion that we see, by the way. That little portion you see there, like a long stick, it's just a tiny version of the Milky Way. If you listen to our oral history, they say our people came out of the reed. In fact, if you go far back, they will tell you that and we formed. But this is literally the planet Earth itself. That's the planet itself, Earth in and of itself. It comes from that thing you see there. That's the home of planet Earth. That's our galaxy. And our system belongs to that galaxy. Our system being a solar system in and of itself, which we symbolize in many ways in this dance, where we revolve around the fire, aka the sun. As above, so below. As above, so below. My people, I'm going to drop it there. Remember, you can find me on YouTube, Sandile Tugani. You can find me on Facebook, Sandile Tugani. Xhosa Culture, those are pages that I'm found in. I'm found on the page of Sandile Tugani. I'm found on the page of Xhosa Culture. I'm found on the page of Cape Historical Society. I'm going to drop now. I'm going to do another live later. I hope I will. I hope I will be able to. At 11, I'm going to do another one. But yeah, have a good one. Remember, guys, this thing is going to be uploaded on YouTube. So, yeah, have a good one. My name is Sandile. Sandile Asduli wakwangube emhlophe. Wakwacanzi, wakwancagala. Mna ndirhola emgodleni. Ndithewuka ngobulembu entabeni. Ndincola ngomhluzi amanzi ekhona. Ndithi hoyini bafazi bentsikizi le ntsholo nayiphazama nithabatha isidoda ingoma elihlatyelwa isifazi. Thank you, my people. Thank you.